Hi, this game contains background for parents and guardians considering ELF 110 Space. The game we're using is Kerbal Space Program. While some of the graphics are cartoonish, it's packed with realistic treatment of STEM topics. This is the Kerbal Space Center. It looks a lot like the NASA Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida, maybe around 1950. In ELF 110 Space, players are responsible for all aspects of a space program, including defining the missions, designing, building and flying the vehicles, collecting science, and guiding research. Kerbal uses the familiar tree concept to map out technological progress. Key here is that the technologies are realistic, as are the parts that they produce. The thrust, specific impulse, and operating temperatures would all be familiar to a NASA rocket scientist today. This is where players design and assemble their vehicles. Putting the parts together is pretty easy, but that doesn't mean you end up with a vehicle that can accomplish its mission. One of the first lessons is the importance of staging. You wouldn't know it from the movies, but it's nearly impossible to get to orbit without staging, given present technology. This vehicle is well staged, but it's also aerodynamically unstable. Once in flight, Kerbal Space Program is basically a solar system-sized physics model that the player can explore. STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and math topics pop up everywhere. Newtonian physics governs the motion of the vehicles, the motion of the celestial bodies, and the orbital mechanics. Aerodynamics governs friction heating of overspeed vehicles, flight for lift-based spaceplanes, and re-entry, aerobraking type maneuvers. Design and engineering challenges happen before the mission as players develop vehicles from available parts. And there's a little math too. For example, do you have enough fuel or delta V or change of velocity to get to your destination? We already mentioned that Kerbal vehicles are made out of Earth realistic parts. That's good because the planet Kerbin has the same mass as Earth, giving it the same gravity, and it has a very similar atmosphere, and it rotates to the east like the Earth. So Kerbal rocket science is basically Earth rocket science. That means the maneuvers are similarly realistic. So for example, the gravity turn is a launch maneuver that's basically an extended curve to the east then up to orbit. It's efficient because it builds on the planet's own rotational speed. It's used by NASA, and it's the best way to get into orbit around Kerbal as well. Kerbal Space Program is rocket science, and it can get difficult, especially once the players get into orbit and start reaching out to the moon and beyond. ELF 110 includes a specifically designed sequence of progression missions and vehicles that help the player avoid getting stuck. The thrill of exploration is there, but we want to avoid the extreme frustration that can come with repeated mission failures and experimentation by trial and error. This is what Kerbal looks like once you're in space. The realism continues here. There is no joystick, and there is no direction that is up. The flight has to be thought through in advance, and flying consists of measured engine burns. Real rockets only have a few minutes of fuel, so planning is essential. There is no way home if you run out of gas. The Kerbal Moon, MUN, is just the first interplanetary mission. As we zoom out, you can see there's a whole solar system here, and players have to grow in planning, design, and engineering skills in order to successfully explore it all. By the end of ELF 110, players have a very good idea about what space exploration is really like. If you'd like to know more, go to elf-enrichment.com.